Hey, what's up everyone, this is White Pointer, and since I've done a couple of videos about Metroid Prime, I wanted to do one that covers something that's not often talked about, and that's 3D Metroidvanias that are not Metroid Prime. There's plenty of great 2D Metroidvanias out there, including Hollow Knight, Axiom Verge, Ori and the Blind Forest, Dead Cells, Guacamelee and more, but what about 3D Metroidvanias? They are far less common, so here's a video dedicated to a few of my favourites that I've enjoyed over the years. Now before I go any further, I wanted to establish my criteria for what exactly a Metroidvania is to qualify for this. Number 1. There must be a large focus on exploration in a large interconnected world, but not be open world. Number 2. Access to various areas is gated by abilities, weapons or upgrades, requiring the player to backtrack and return to previous areas with newly acquired skills in order to progress the game. Those abilities must also have other utilities outside of simply gaining access to a new area, such as combat or environment traversal. Number 3. Returning to previous areas simply to grab non-essential collectibles doesn't count. Neither does unlocking areas solely with single-use keys, passwords, or switches or levers, or having access to areas only restricted by higher level enemies or bosses. Number 4, it should contain at least some degree of both platforming and combat. And finally, it can be either first person or third person, this doesn't matter at all, as long as it's 3D. Just so I'm clear, these criteria rule out games like the Soulsborne series, the Bioshock series, Psychonauts, Resident Evil, and others that are sometimes cited to fit this subgenre. While most of these do have some degree of backtracking, you need more than just backtracking to be a Metroidvania. Alright, so on with the list, let's get started. I'll start with the most obvious one straight away, Batman Arkham Asylum. Batman finds himself spending the night from hell inside Arkham Asylum as he encounters many of the classic Batman villains. He starts with a pretty good set of abilities, but as you progress further through the game, he gains new gadgets that provide him access to previously inaccessible areas and increase his combat potential. And returning to these areas is mandatory if you want to complete the game. There's plenty of secrets to find, it has great set pieces and an engaging story. The puzzles are great too, having the player utilise Batman's detective skills and gadgets to figure things out. The combat is pretty unique and satisfying, which is a formula they stuck with in the sequels, even though the general gameplay strayed more into open world than Metroidvania. In many cases you have a choice to approach a room full of goons either stealthily, taking them out one by one, or just going in with fists flying. If you haven't played it, you really need to fix that. It's one of the best examples of a licensed game done right, and there's some painstaking attention to detail for many Batman fans to enjoy. It's available on PS3, Xbox 360, PC, or as part of the Arkham Collection on PS4 and Xbox One. Going back to the PS1 era, we have Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver. I did a retrospective for this game a while back if you want to check it out, but this is a sequel to Blood Omen Legacy of Kain. While that original game was a top-down Zelda-like game, Soul Reaver is a 3D Metroidvania, as you take control of a new protagonist named Raziel. The story is kind of long and convoluted, so I'll spare you most of the details, but Raziel was a vampire that was transformed into a wraith that can shift between the physical and spirit worlds. Being able to switch between these two planes is a main mechanic in the game and required to solve numerous puzzles. Raziel starts the game with almost nothing, aside from his plane switching ability and a simple glide, but as he defeats the game's main bosses, he gains the ability to phase through gates, climb walls, swim in otherwise deadly water and more, which grant him access to new parts of the gothic world of Nosgoth. The combat is also pretty satisfying. You should check out my retrospective if you want to learn a bit more about Soul Reaver. This is the only game in the series that follows this formula, as the later games are more linear affairs for the most part. Unfortunately, this game hasn't seen any kind of remaster or re-release on modern systems, so your choices are PS1, Dreamcast or PC. It is available on GOG, so that's probably your best option, as getting the original version to run on modern hardware can be a pain in the ass, to put it nicely. Still in this same period, we have Shadow Man. This game is based somewhat loosely on the Shadow Man comic book series, and sees the player take control of Michael Leroy, who can travel from the world of living, called Liveside, and the world of dead, called Deadside, where he becomes the voodoo warrior Shadow Man. A big baddie named Legion recruits Jack the Ripper to build him an asylum with a huge machine in Deadside, as well as 4 other famous serial killers, and it's up to Shadow Man to stop Legion from activating the machine and triggering the apocalypse. Shadow Man is really, really long, very non-linear, and requires a lot of backtracking. There are plenty of puzzles to solve and plenty of secrets to find, but even the main story is going to make you run back and forth a heck of a lot. Throughout the game, Shadow Man will require special tattoos called Gads that give him the abilities such as being able to climb up waterfalls of blood, touch hot surfaces, and even swim in lava. Many of the various weapons you acquire have secondary uses too, like being able to burn down cloth doors or destroy parts of the environment. This is a very mature game with lots of adult themes, a foreboding atmosphere, voodoo and horror elements, and some really disturbing scenes, especially once you get into the asylum, so keep that in mind before stepping into this one. It was originally released on PS1, Nintendo 64, Dreamcast and PC. The PC version is once again available on GOG, but there's also a remaster on its way in 2021 for the PS4, Xbox One and Switch, so keep an eye out for that. I'll mention 2 more modern offerings to finish up the video. The first is Darksiders 3. The first couple of Darksiders games, especially the first one, take a lot of inspiration from Zelda, but Darksiders 3 has a very Metroidvania design to it, while also incorporating elements from the Soulsborne games, especially with its leveling and upgrade system. This follows the story of Fury, the third horseman of the apocalypse that we're introduced to in this series, as she hunts down the 7 deadly sins who have escaped confinement. It's one big interconnected world, and as you progress the game, Fury earns special artifacts called Hollows that grant her traversal abilities, like being able to walk through lava, burn down giant webs, hover in the air with wind power, smash down walls, and freeze time so she can do neat stuff like walk on water. Each of these Hollows also provide new weapons and combat abilities as well. There's no in-game map, but the world is designed well enough that you can find your way around without much trouble, and you'll often discover something new when traversing through previously visited locations. Although Darksiders 3 wasn't received quite as well as the first 2 games, I think it's still a worthwhile playthrough, and I don't think you really need to have played 1 and 2 to necessarily know what's going on in number 3, although it definitely helps if you have. It's available on PS4, Xbox One and PC. The final game I'll talk about is actually a licensed game, and a pretty damn good one too. Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. In this game you play a young Jedi named Cal on a journey to help an attempt to rebuild the Jedi Order after the events of Episode 3 Revenge of the Sith. His adventure takes him to several different planets as he searches ancient temples, crashed starships, Imperial bases and dense jungles while he follows the path of former Jedi Master Cordova. Initially he only starts with his lightsaber and the ability to briefly slow down time, but as the game progresses, he gradually remembers his force powers from his Jedi training. He's accompanied by a little droid named BD-1, who also gains upgrades when Cal finds workbenches, and both of these combined make for some pretty interesting synergy when accessing new areas you couldn't reach before and solving puzzles. Travelling to and from the different planets is required, and some tasks don't even need to be done in a specific order either. There's a bit of a Souls vibe in this game as well, particularly when it comes to the combat, and there's a skill tree that is almost purely for newer and enhanced combat abilities. One of the best parts about this game though, is that there's actually a very Metroid Prime-like 3D map, making navigation much easier. Unfortunately, a lot of the stuff you find are just cosmetic changes, which is a bit disappointing, but there's also other secrets that expand the backstory, which are pretty cool to find hidden in the nooks and crannies as you explore these large maps. And of course, there's some pretty cool boss fights too. Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order is available on PS4, Xbox One, PC, and even Stadia if you care about that. So there you go, there's 5 pretty good 3D Metroidvanias that are not Metroid Prime for you to check out. Keeping in mind my criteria outlined at the beginning of the video, do you have any other games to recommend? I'd love to hear about them, so feel free to drop me some comments as I do read all of them. Give me a thumbs up if you like this video, and don't forget to subscribe to stay up to date with my content. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.